11 a.m. Eastern Time. I am so pleased to have my two wonderful colleagues with me today. We've got Rita Wirtz, we've got Leslie Flowers. Thank you so much, ladies, for being here. Chat's on. We depend on chat to direct and support the show, and we want to create and share as many good quality takeaways that you can apply immediately after the show, make connections, get your return on investment early. With that said, the word of the day is confidence. And before chat starts overflowing, which it usually does, I'm very appreciative. Let's just get our take on what confidence means to us. Leslie, let's do it. Oh, and look at your good friend Omar just showed up. So thank you, Omar.
Hi, Omar.
So Leslie, not Leslie. Did I say Leslie? Whoever wants to take this.
It's Leslie.
You've said it 3 times now, but Rita, why don't you go first?
No, I said for you. No, it's yours.
So confidence. So good morning, everybody. Confidence is a muscle that grows with direct proportion to its use. And for me, that use is consistently setting and achieving goals that I didn't know how to do.
That's a good, it's a good starter. So Rita, what does confidence mean to you? Because what's so cool about these words is we always know where we started in our thoughts towards confidence. And when we get finished, and hopefully everybody else, people get to redefine things and become more aware of different meanings before they have to take action. Rita?
I was thinking about confidence. It literally did stick in my head. And what I kept thinking about was, does my confidence come from within, or do I feel more confident because other people say, oh, gee, that was really good what you wrote, or I really learned from it. So my first question to you, Dawn, and then back to Leslie and our friends here, does confidence come within? And if so, I kept thinking, well, how do we do it? How do we bring it back if we've lost it or somebody has said an unkind word? So that's my question. Is it from within?
Well, I think that's an excellent question, Rita. And my response to that is that confidence is an attitude. You know, just like success is an attitude. And I think confidence and success and confidence go hand in hand. And I think it works comprehensively. So it comes from within, based on pride, based on accomplishment, based on feedback. And it also comes outside based on environment, based on comfort level. So, there's a mix and a blend to making confidence a long-term attitude, or and I think confidence, like so many words, can be used in so many different ways, different contexts. We always talk about what is your tone, what is your facial expression when you deliver your words. What have you been able to learn from the other person before you judge. And I think confidence is, that's why when I go back to success as an attitude, and confidence creates that attitude, it's a projection. Somebody sees a confident person, right? How they walk into the room, how they just, kind of take control. Leslie, you see somebody you know?
Yeah, I was just waving at the chat.
Oh, no, it's good. That reminds me. But anyways, that's my initial definition of that. With that said, let's just recognize some people, because if we don't, we're going to have to do a lot more later. Ashif is here. Ladies and gentlemen, well, that's a great way of honoring everybody. It is a confident approach. Good morning, all. Amazing trio this morning. So great to have you, Kelly. Like I promoted in the post, I'll be on Kelly and The Awesome Journey at 11:11 my time, 1:11 p.m. Eastern time. So, it's nice to see more combinations of people. Today, Leslie and Rita are a first. Lillian's here. Thank you, Lillian. Paul, who I had a great chat with yesterday, and we're actually considering doing an Audible event, possibly on a Friday, maybe even this one. Good morning, Rita. Grateful to be here. Learn from all your support. Nicole's here. Nicole's great. Had her on the show. Want to have her back. I think she just tells a wonderful story and tells it so sincerely. Let's just see if we have something meaty. I look at confidence as keeping the promises you make to yourself. Well, that's a good point, Paul. I think that's something that Leslie can take off on once we get through the afternoon from the UK. Just a flying visit. Need to duck out shortly. Well, little is better than nothing, and it gets into a lot. So, with that, Leslie.
Oh, well, so I wanted to go back to thank you to Rita's question.
Right.
So it's an internal job, 100%.
Yes.
And your external will reflect your level of confidence. So if someone observes you being confident and you trust that person, right, to give you good feedback, then you're showing up as confident. You know, and it reminds me of Maxwell Maltz's book, Psycho-Cybernetics.
Yes, yes.
Because what he did was, this was in the 50s, it's one of the first books that really taught me about mind. He was a plastic surgeon that did horrific repairs, right? And brought people that were disfigured for whatever reason, who had been that way for a while and had horrible reactions from people. Right. Yes. So their confidence was in the toilet, so to speak. So as a plastic surgeon, his discovery, or the observation, if you will, was that even when he made someone who was in this condition for a long time to look average or normal, they still saw themselves as the old person. So the external has very little significance, very little. And you know, the thing that makes you confident is doing things you didn't think you could do, doing them well, better than you thought you could. Like, so taking that little leap, right? It's got to be something that you've not done it before, but it doesn't have to be huge. But when you take a step in a new direction, you do not know what's going to happen, and it turns out good because you were splendid. That's how you build confidence. That's the confidence that you want. And that's how it grows. The more times you step a little bit out of your comfort zone. And, and to Paul's point, being your word is integrity.
Yes.
Part of it, right? Do you show up that way? And do you keep your word to yourself? So I think it's totally internal, really, and that it takes time to develop, because especially what Maltz found out, right, that the beliefs that that person had outweighed any little tip or trick or look or compliment or even major surgery. So there.
Yes, so there.
That's a good springboard for Rita.
Wow. I want to go back to the same thing. I agree with you 100%. And you also done what you said. But I also have this feeling that many of us are very confident about things, but somebody on the outside makes a comment. And then all of a sudden, we kind of shrivel. So I do think that people being more intentional about comments that are made to us makes a difference. Practice the pause is what I keep saying. I have to practice the pause. I had time to think about this on Saturday because I converted the time wrong for the Morocco seminar. And so I was 3 hours early and more than 3 hours late, but I had to hustle all the platforms I gave the wrong time. My point is my confidence went away. I prepped this thing and I was ready to go, and nobody was hurt by it but me. I got it all fixed, but my confidence was down to the zero. So my question is, what do you do to get it back? And for me, I play the Rocky song in my head. It's like my anchor. And I did that, and I drink some water, do some nice deep breathing, a little meditating, and just fine. So that's a two-part thing. Why do we let other people or other external events get to us, which drags our confidence down? And then how do we recuperate to bring ourselves back up?
Rita, how
Leslie.
much are you gonna, Rita, Dawn.
Right,
The thing is, who are you listening to?
That's the point.
So, and this is the problem that I face with women's groups, and people in general. We are not careful with our words. However, you can develop enough belief in yourself where it doesn't hurt as much, where it gets smaller, where it diminishes, where pretty soon it's kind of like a whisper. You go, okay, that person's having a bad day.
Yes.
Right. And I want to ask you, Rita,
Oh, no.
when you got everything wrapped up in a bow, which I know you did.
Oh, I did.
You were on the other side of that low.
Yes.
Did you regard in the moment and say, damn, I'm good? Right. Because
I said, damn, I'm stupid.
No,
because yay, I got it.
Yeah. So that's what you do. It just
we need to end up in a good place.
That's right. Good. That's true. That's true.
Well, to what everybody's sharing, it's about commitment, I think.
Yes.
And confidence. If you have a long-term commitment, the day-to-day stuff doesn't seem as, let's say, persuasive to you. If you have a clear vision, and if you're committed confidently, so confidently supports the vision and the commitment. Why are you doing this? I'm confident I can accomplish it. I think it's no problem. So along the way, you're going to get bumps and everything else, but that has to do with more perseverance with your confidence. So again, every word you can measure, short-term, long-term. Right?
It rolls. You don't get confident and you're stuck there.
That's right.
Right. So that's the law of rhythm, right? So the dips, those moments of feeling not confident.
Yes.
The depth of the level will be matched and can be matched by the opposite high. So if you're really low,
right.
A coach I knew that coached for Tony Robbins said, and I've never forgotten this, when he was working with Tony Robbins, who is like totally successful, multi-millionaire, right? Confidence out the wazoo. But anyway, he said, when he is in a bad place, everybody leaves. Because think about this, his lows match his high crescendos. We just don't know when. So if you have these immense highs of confidence and success, when you go low, you're going lower than anybody else, and all the coaches would leave.
Well,
right. So what you want to do, I mean, just temporarily. So what you want to do is watch it. Like if it's a low confidence, that's how you want it. It's going to roll. You're going to have those moments. But I think if you can even out those waves, right, and go with the flow of confidence, sometimes you will be, sometimes you won't.
Well,
I agree. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'll let you.
I was just going to say, I really agree with that. And I made that point, not because I'm not a confident person, but I also want everybody to know that Leslie and I and Don, we're not anything. We're not all that. We're people. We're all the same. And I think everybody has times where you're more confident. If you're baking a cake and you know what you're doing, you're pretty confident usually. If you're doing a new tech skill, or in my case, starting to get into AI, I'm not confident at all. But on the whole, I'm a very confident person. And that's what drives me, because I just work at something so diligently until I get it, because I know that I can help make a difference as a servant leader. So if I give in to something because I think I can't do it, I can't get it, who am I hurting? Not just me, but I may be affecting a lot of other people who needed me to maintain my level. And when we do have a down period, I hide. I just stay away from people for a little bit until I get myself back up, because the way we come about other people either makes them feel defeated or makes them feel that we have shined our light for them, like Don does every single day.
Okay.
So I think that's the main thing, is to be able to get back up when you have something that you're not feeling that you're 100% about. And we can't all be great at everything, although I'd like to.
Oh, and along with your things that you, poor Don, he's in a sandwich here.
I
Like
know,
Yeah,
Don,
I feel like the bologna all day.
well,
Go ahead. Go
But-
ahead.
Well, anyways, the two thoughts I had relating to what you wonderful ladies have shared is, and I'm always into benefits that people aren't always aware of. And being older gives you more experience, and experience with anything gives you more confidence, right? If you did something the first time, something simple like cooked something, the first time you don't have a lot of confidence, and even when it's done, you wonder. But if you've done it over and over again, that's where family traditions and recipes continue. You have no question how it's going to turn out, because it always does, because you're so experienced at it.
Right.
The other thing, to Rita's point, with how do you correct when something deflates you, right? How do you feel when confidence leaves you? Well, to me, it's all how multi-diversified you are, because you can switch to something you're really good at and really confident about, right? You're just out of that arena for a while,
Yeah.
right? The heat got too high, or you just decided this, I got a better place to go. I can have more fun and be confident. So you choose how you measure your confidence based on who you're involved with. I mean, people you love and trust, you don't think of what's their ulterior motive, right? You're confident that you're with good people who look out for you, you look out for them, and everybody's confident in the community then. And I think that's another offset, that when someone loses confidence or enthusiasm, attached to people who are having that high day, that you can, like a show like this or anybody's show, because it gets you out of you. And that's where confidence, if that's where it all comes from, comes from.
Well,
And
it sounds like agile thinking, which
Yes,
is
where we are.
because
I'm getting too many. We'll get right back to you, Leslie, but I got to
it's okay.
recognize the people. Yes, Ashif, making the present moment count.
That's right.
And in the present moment, you can be super confident for the next second, right? Whatever's going to happen in the world or you won't happen in a second. I was sitting in a room with a massive influencer yesterday. There were over 600 people in the room. 10 to 15 raised their hands, and I didn't get to add value to the conversation. So I'm making a video to do it anyway. Be the representation you want to see. So true. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for someone to let you in when you're already into what you're into. Always start the day with coffee in one hand, confidence in the other. Danny, you're coming up with some great comments. I sure appreciate you moving the show in the right direction. Kim says, good morning, everyone. Terrific Tuesday to you all. Kim's a lovely lady, and just as lovely as Lillian. Lillian's been on the show. We got to get her back. We've got this Renata Deb's been here every day. Let me just run through it. Here's a sheet that says, when you are the best version of yourself, it empowers confidence.
Yes.
Paul comes back with, one of the most powerful lessons I learned on my entrepreneur journey is to have the courage and confidence to get in the room. It used to blow my mind, the people I had access to, and they'd say, do you know how many people don't ever make it into? I believe it. It's, you win because so many other people don't play. Great conversation and guests you have, Dr. Constance. Actually, we're talking right after after the second show. This is a double header today. Great conversation. Chief, be proud of who you are, not ashamed of how someone else sees you. So perfect.
That's right.
That's a beautiful saying, Chief. Kim comes back with, Rita, great share regarding the techniques you use to recoup your confidence using the Rocky sound of meditation. And that's what's so valuable. We can give each other confidence by our reflection back to each other. It
Yes.
fluctuates, but it's trying to keep it up by not letting externals drag you down. At least we know the formula. You, me, or nobody is going to hit as hard as life. But
That's
it ain't
right.
about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you can hit and keep moving forward. Rocky
That's
Balboa.
right.
See?
There we go.
Leslie, Rita created this whole Rocky phenomenon
Oh.
today. I always use
Years.
gratitude to recenter myself, remind
Mhm.
that the universe gives me an opportunity to prove who I say I am, especially during the low times, because that's when people watch every move.
That's
Don't-
interesting. We ought to talk about that for a second.
Yeah, you don't have to prove it.
Yeah.
You simply have to
let's-
be it.
Yes.
Okay. Lillian says, I just volunteered to teach ESL classes to adults. Good for you, Lillian. I know Lillian
Wait.
has been looking for work who speak none to very little English. I'm confident I can do it. I am sure you're going to do it, and come back and tell us how well you did. Paul says, I'm curious for the panel. Do you believe that discipline plays a big role in confidence? I remember something an elite performance coach said, it's important to operate off of standards, feelings. Let me see if I can finish that. Well, I'll come back if I can. Danny says confidence can come from success or doing something, but we must also keep in mind that experience is what you get when you don't get what you wanted. That's so true.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
everything polishes you for the next move. I tell myself to think back to my last 3 accomplishments. Good discipline.
Great.
Good way to come back. Lillian, wow, you are a patient teacher, connects with students. Okay, let me see. Here's another
And for
Paul.
Lillian, I would ask her if she's ever taught ESL
Okay,
to non-English speaking students. And here's the thing, I suspect she has not. And the thing of claiming her confidence of doing something she has not
Mhm.
done before and did it anyway, and she'll come out smelling like a rose.
Oh, beautiful
oh,
person.
for sure. No question about it. So now that we've caught up, Rita,
I'd like to ask everybody, how do you feel you look when you are feeling confident? For example, when you see somebody who's walking around and their head's kind of down and they're just kind of slumpy, they don't exude that aura of confidence. And so I'm thinking that there's a physicality involved in this as well.
That's what they're thinking, is a very low vibration. So when you're dragging like that, go to your thoughts. What are you thinking about it? And I really love what Paul said, and I didn't want to jump over it, but he used the word gratitude. Rita, when you were talking about the meditation and the song and all that,
Yes.
I have found to be grateful for the lesson that's there.
Yes.
Because the lesson in everything being scheduled wrong for you, right? The lesson was learned because, and the confidence was rebuilt, whether you acknowledge
yes.
it or not, because not only did you get it all done on time,
Yes.
but like a pro,
I did.
because your overall nature is confident.
Yes.
Right?
Well, it's about optimism. I'm a longtime optimist, and we've all gone through stories in our journeys.
Mhm.
And what's neat about this show is I haven't really articulated it here, but possibly in writing. We're all on a different journey, but when we come here with Don, it intersects, and at that point, the power is right here in the now. The power of now, Tele, is right here. And so that's a confidence builder. I feel like every day that I've been in this show and think of Don every single day, it does build my confidence that I actually know more tech than I thought I did. And I actually was able to finish some things that I didn't think I could. And so I'm really working on myself not to be multitasking and all over the place, which is my tendency, too many things at one time. And multitasking is not necessarily a good thing. So then I focus and I finish one piece at a time. So that builds my confidence because I go, got that one.
And it's the completion. And
Yes.
see, and Paul brought up perseverance or persistence. Is that part of it? It is, because take Lillian as an example,
Right.
right? If Lillian quit halfway through, which I know she won't do, right? But that's what a lot of people do. They start out and then for whatever reason, those internal voices, they quit. Then you never achieve, you never develop the persistence or the perseverance required to restore that confidence, right? So then you're still left depleted. So it does take time, right? It actually takes intention, right? It takes pushing yourself a little outside your comfort zone. And what Lillian's doing is fun, right? It doesn't have to be drudgery, right? Like that sounds like a really super fun thing to do with your time as far as giving to others, doing something you haven't done before, making a difference for other people.
That's
I mean,
right.
I just love that she's doing that.
Me too.
Well, I think that's one of the keys, and I think
Right.
you gals hit on it. Is getting, let's say, knocked down is like getting your car dented, right? You go out and someone bumps into you, didn't wreck the car, and
Right.
it's noticeable. That dent is only there as long as it takes you to get it to the repair place. Right? If you owned one and you just drove her right there, in an hour it's gone, your dent's gone, it's over. Now the key is how do you do that in life with your confidence? And if you have a community that's like a repair station or a pit stop, and you just say, I just got blown away or run over by this person or something, that's going to stay with you until you put it out there and someone comes with 10 different things that happened to them or way they dealt with it. And pretty soon you repaired it sooner than if you didn't have a community, if you didn't have trusted relationships and friends, because it would be you, and you'd continue to get hit without a repair station. And pretty soon your confidence will go down if what you're projecting, which is a car full of dents, is not a confident.
But the thing is it's rare that people have learned to choose a different way of thinking in that moment.
Right.
That's why we have this as older and more seasoned.
Right.
We're more agile, right? With our thought, we can flip, right? We built lots of new beliefs. And so we actually have a selection, right, of ways to put ourselves back on the path. It's going to happen. And so that's what the longevity gives us. But it's all about the ability to choose a different way of looking at the experience in the moment. And the longer you take, you don't ever get that time back. So then it's important to be nimble.
Yes.
When you're low, Rita, you go right into your dance and rock.
Absolutely.
And you literally do this huge reframe because you're not going to waste time. And then it also shifts your energy.
That's right.
We're born to be healthy.
Yes.
We're born not to be sick. And we can make ourselves sick thinking negative thoughts. And we can also heal ourselves. People who have, been paralyzed, been burned, and you wonder how. Learn about the mind and how to be nimble.
Yes.
As far as choosing your view on anything. And I promise you, life will get lots of fun. It's fun now, but it took a whole lifetime.
It's good to see you having fun. And I hope everybody.
That's a great topic, John. You picked a great topic.
Well, the word is just a word until you put it into motion. And I think the key to confidence is priorities, right? When you get right down to what's the most important thing to you, usually it's not something you wrote and something you commented. So if your priority's in the right place, right? You know, to me, it's always been family first because I knew they were the only ones I could depend on. And I made a great investment because it keeps giving me dividends in so many ways. And the things professionally or through business that happened, it's just professional business stuff. That's all it is.
I want to know how your wife puts up with your doing this every day.
She loves it. You know, for years she said, "You
Get
got
you out of her hair for a couple of hours."
no." You know, while we're doing this, she's doing her Zoom yoga meeting around the world. So every Tuesday since COVID, she's been a yoga teacher for 35 years.
Wow.
So and then Friday she's doing yoga in the park because we got a park right next to us, and now all these ladies are going to be doing that. So no, she loves me doing this. She encourages me.
Great.
She listens to them. She loves all the people. I couldn't do it without that because we also have to rearrange our schedules in the morning, at least mine. But that's the key is if you have somebody who's more important than anybody else, and that could be grandkids and kids and extended family, the other stuff is so insignificant relative to something would happen to them, right? Because it wouldn't be about confidence. It would be about you, you know, and when you make little things from little people, make major changes in you.
That's right.
The issue is not them, it's you, right?
So we're modeling confidence all the time. And so it behooves us, it makes sense for us to carry ourselves looking confident. I bring back that physicality again, because I do think it's part of it. What's going on in here is also reflected in our own body language. And so when I go in with a group or when I'm doing a keynote in front of a lot of people, it's really easy to lose my confidence. Or if you see somebody's not really with you and how do you re-engage them, this could deplete your confidence. But it's always about modeling that we are a confident person. And again, this for me goes back to optimism, because I know no matter what, I am going to get through it. And when I get through it, then there's going to be a big smile on my face that I want others to feel. I don't want others to pick up on anything negative when I'm feeling negative. So if I'm feeling negative, like I said, I go hide out. I, read a book or again, meditate or just close my eyes and just breathe, maybe do a little Pilates, something physical, maybe take a walk. But the bottom line is it makes sense for us to work on keeping our confidence at least a momentum, because you're right. If we're going up and we go down, we go up and we down, it's better to be as smooth as we can. And for that, we have to have our head in order and our body language clearly has to match. It also goes along with getting rapport with people. If we are confident when we go into a meeting, whether it's on Zoom or face to face, if we are slumping in our chair there, we're not going to be showing we're confident. If we match the other person's body language, their tone, their rhythm, this comes from neurolinguistics, NLP. And when I got certified in it, I thought that was probably the most valuable degree, that in hypnosis, that I got in all my years of study, because it helped me understand that I affect all those around me. And it makes sense for me to stay as confident as possible so that I have enough of me to give to others with that white light and boundary around me. Otherwise, I will give until I'm absolutely a depleted, empty
Then you
jar.
can't give anymore. And what your positivity,
Right.
it's that high vibration of
Yes.
love, kindness, and you will attract. I did something really I haven't done in a very long time today about confidence.
What did you do?
Well, I became a real hermit during COVID.
Yes.
And I used to do a lot of big events and a lot of speaking and,
Right.
just busy. And when COVID came along, I stopped doing that. And I haven't been out. Plus, I got bumped off Facebook a couple of years ago. So I don't really know as much as what's going on in my community, right? I am on LinkedIn. Well, I was invited today to do a presentation, a personal development presentation for a very large group. and I hadn't done it in years face to face. But I've done hundreds of them. So I thought to myself, oh, I wonder if I'll be good. Well, let me just tell you, I sang 3 times.
Okay.
The timing was perfect. It was how to find your ideal client. And I created, using the Enneagram for my own clients, a way to determine the values of your ideal client. And the takeaway at the end is that it's you. But yet, when you go to try to ask a person about what are their values, standards, and ideals, what's right, it's kind of too confronting.
Yes.
But by doing it this way, so it was like I had never left.
Well, that's great.
It was just like, so it was, I was glad to do it. And then
do you think that, Don, do you think that there's a difference between extroverts and introverts in terms of how they show themselves to the world? And is it fair to say that an extrovert has more confidence or inspires me when an introvert's voice needs to be heard?
It takes some confidence to go from introvert to extrovert, but depending on your skill set, your experience, your knowledge of who you are and what you can do is, I think, the foundation to it.
Yes.
I think what we have to also discuss is the other side, because it seems like we're on one side is overconfidence. How do you guard against being overconfident, taking things for granted, thinking you're bigger, better than you really are because you're building on successes? I say all the time, I learned so much more on the way down than I learned on the way up, because on the way up, you just accept everything, enjoy everything. It just keeps coming. And then,
I think the more confident you are, though, the more humble you become. And it's always about humility. It's like you better be bowing a little deeper the more humble that you are. And the more humble you are, people are drawn to you. They're not drawn to us if we're so overconfident at anything that we turn them off.
Well, here I think is the common thread that we all have used during this conversation is feedback, right? The more feedback you have, no one likes the reliability of a poll of 1, right? So you've got to expand that. And I'm always reaching out, sharing. There's something to confidence that relates to responsibility and accountability. When someone tells you something and you don't want to hear it, but it resonates and says, there's some truth to that.
Well, I think our society is hard on introverts, that every voice matters in any culture, whether it's organizational culture at a school or in business. And I happened to catch Lillian's comment here. She wrote, I'm an introvert and coming, I lost it now. I'm an introvert and coming on the show made me come out of my comfort zone. I love that, but I also want to make a caveat here that I would never want to see an introvert feel that they had to change who they are. It's that we as a society have seemed, just in my opinion, that it seems like we've always valued extroverts more than the voices of introverts. And very often they may be sitting there quietly and they've got, I hate to even put those labels on, but using that label, then they are not always listened to. They're left out a lot. And that's something as a society that we can easily work on to make sure that every voice is heard and that our voice quiets down. And that's where that humility comes in.
Well, to that point, if we look at it, confidence is a competitive advantage.
Yes.
Right? Because if you go into a meeting with confidence and you're meeting someone who doesn't have it, and people see it as soon as you walk in the room. Before you say a word, they look at how you look. They look at how you smile. They look at how you grab somebody's hand and shake them, how you work the room, how you develop and generate energy.
Authenticity, Don, right?
And you're measured and you're in control. I think confidence lends itself to control of a situation, because how many times are you on an icy road, right? And if you're used to driving it, right? You say, I know I got to slow down. I got to give myself more distance. And you're confident, right? Because you're in control. When you're out of control, you lose confidence. Like if all of a sudden the connection went, everybody would freak out. everybody would lose confidence, and they get into the point where now they're stressed or whatever the situation that knocks you off of your center point. But before we go to Leslie, let's go through the comments. Agree, sharing and caring does matter. Express yourself when you can, but listen and learn from others. You know, if we look at things day to day and don't get caught up in the past of what we didn't do right and fear of the future, what we may do wrong,
Yeah.
you know, you're into the now. Watch out for the quiet
I
girl.
love that one.
Uh,
I love that one.
agree.
Well, we'll talk about women for a second. Traditionally, how do I say this? Traditionally, women were told that they were bossy, or my third grade report card said, Rita talks too much. And we need to get out of this thing about women who have leadership skills being bossy because they're confident, and because women have leadership skills very often, they're told they're bossy. And we still haven't gotten to parity, whether it's in education or the business world. What is it, Don? About 5% of women entrepreneurs owning business. It's not more than 5 or 10%.
That's what I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's perfect that you brought it up.
No, it's perfect that you go on then, because you have more to say. That's so good.
Well, so here's the thing. In 2013, I started working particularly with women. Here's the thing. You alluded to this, Rita, to false confidence. Now, look, men have been running businesses, and collective consciously, they have an inherent confidence. And I've even asked men about this. They will step up for a job even when they don't know how to do it. They'll step up for it before they even know what it is. And that's an inherent confidence, but it's not real confidence. It's because it's not distinguished. They don't use it to influence. Now, a woman would never do that.
No, never.
Because we have a whole different set of skills. And my work is about women being able to ask for what they deserve and getting paid. So they have to build confidence. The thing that makes them more powerful is that they're taking the exact steps to rebuild or build their confidence, where men in a business world, it's inherent. So they don't really have any power with it, except that they will often get the job. And frankly, after 45 years in corporate, it was the women anyway that ended up doing the work. Right, for that inflated ego. But the problem is we aren't heard and we aren't paid because we lack confidence. And so my work specifically is about building confidence in doing things you've never done before. And that's why every 12 weeks you set a goal, and you set one goal, and it's outside your comfort zone, and you achieve it. Now, every time you achieve a goal, man or woman, it builds the muscle of confidence and your deservability, because women also don't believe they deserve it. And they don't, because you can't come into 21st century business after being a mother and a nurturer with that set of skills and expect to go toe to toe with men. At the same time, the smart men, of which there aren't as many as smart women, when they learn how to properly, intentionally build confidence, you better watch out.
Well, Warren Buffett always says,
here's what I'd like to add to that. I think that too many, and that's why words are so important, redefining them, evaluating them based on context, is times have changed. And the biggest challenge that has opened diversity and inclusiveness is the ability of not having to worry about permission, not having to deal with access, because now you can go directly, just like this show. There's too many people that were blocked because there was just a few doors and everybody had to go through them, right? Just like publishing. There was a point where you had tremendous amounts of authors, but unless you had an agent, unless you were in New York or somewhere important, you were blocked from coming in because of the need to plug into an institutional situation. what's happening in my whole life on e-commerce was being a disruptor, was carrying old legacy businesses, just taking them down as fast as I could and putting up a better model. And the people are still in the past who, for good reason, dealt with experiences that weren't fair in any way. It wasn't even like flipping a coin. It was already understood, you know, when Miriam was on and she was became a doctor in Peru, only 5% of medical students are women. Forget about who makes it to doctors.
It's changing. It's changing.
Well, the thing is here's what's also changing. And, you know, Ambambola writes a nice comment. Wow, you're blessed to have a great wife, Donald Cohen. A supportive, self-a partner makes whatever you do easy. Build your confidence, all you do, which leads to success. And you're so right. Because if you got somebody that's in your corner and they see you getting beat up, they will do everything to get you back on your feet, right? It's like, hey, let's make something, let's cook something, let's walk somewhere. And, you know, when they tell you you're better than you give yourself credit for, you start to believe them now. And that's where the priorities come in. And today, if you're a man or a woman, you're still one person until you connect with another person. So the more people get together as people, right, and then join forces with each other's support, they've got more access now. Because before you had to dig your own way out, right? Now you can get.
I'm reading Dennis. Dennis is the resident comedian. I'm telling you, you read his the latest thing.
Sharing and caring does matter. Express yourself when you can, but listen and learn from others.
Yes.
Dennis is here. Maybe this is the one I didn't see earlier. Women do have better skills because they understand the true meaning of labor.
They have, and that's a good point. They have a different set of skills. And the sad part is that business is not getting the best of both men and women. Right. The best women have a different kind of leadership skill. And until we can be heard and recognized, and there's some things that women can do to be heard, because we come in like a bull in a china shop, right? We come into 21st century business with cleavage and jewelry and wiggling and jiggling, and we clash with the context of business. So, you know, the first things that women have to do is kind of take a look around and kind of match the context, because all of that coming in has people stop listening. So it's just know that we're coming, and there won't be long before the pendulum swings the other way and we're making all the money and you're home taking care of all the babies.
You're talking about
that's a good wish out there. But you know, I think that there's a lot of things happening that have no basis in the past, right? They're reinvented, recreated, new ways of working, new ways of thinking, you know, and people don't have the luxury to discriminate like they used to. It's too tough a world. People have to make it on value, have to make it on merit and performance. There's not a lot of stuff, because I know myself how many businesses hurt themselves by not allowing more diversity, inclusiveness, opportunity. It wasn't that they hurt the person that didn't let in. They hurt themselves by not letting the person in who would have been a better person, who would have modeled better, you know. And again, it was about being an authority figure instead of a collaborator, a facilitator, an encourager. But, you know, every business, and there's businesses for the last hundreds of years that did have good leadership, good vision, benevolent intention, and did a lot of good for a lot of people. They were in the minority, but, you know, it's whatever you want to make it, but it's also what kind of world you want to create for yourself and the people around you. Because when you hurt somebody, you hurt a lot more than that one person. And when you help somebody more than that person. And here's another key thing. And you see it with kids so easily, how you can build their confidence so fast and really tear it down without even knowing it. right? By not paying attention to them, by not being in the present with them, where you're just doing automatic things. And
Well, think about their confidence.
Yeah.
See, when they're little is when really, if we're cognizant parents, that's where we need to nurture their confidence. And going back to what you always point out, Dawn, is what words do you choose? Right? Be nimble with what the words you choose. You have a negative and a positive for almost every word. If negative is getting ready to come out of your mouth, bite your tongue.
Practice the pause.
There you go. I call it the power of pause, but it's the same thing. Take a breath before you do anything.
Well, and I think the thing is when you get recognition, appreciation that's unsolicited too, when people are doing things in your behalf that you don't even know of. I mean, Father's Day, I was with my grandkids and kids, and my grandson, who's 10, showed me his phone, and I'm the picture when you look at the phone with my hat and my sport coat, and he just loves this show. He's actually been on it once. But I asked him. Well, he's my technical advisor. He knows so much more about this stuff than I do.
Right.
And he's always telling me, sell some merch. Merchandise. Calls me Pop. But anyways, when I hear that, I can't get any more confident because I know I'm playing to the choir at that point. I mean, if he's got my picture on his phone, I even said, "Did you put it on before I showed up? Or will it leave it?" And he said, "No, it's for real." And when I visited my son in Baltimore, me and my wife, he's at Johns Hopkins, and at his desk, he showed me around, and he had a picture of his family there. And I even asked the people, was this here yesterday? And I said, well, that makes me feel so much more confident. Because, you just need a few people that think the world of you. And usually grandkids can do that because you're always doing things to make them feel better, and that's what you should feel confident as a person who you are. People measure based on career, based on money, based on competition. But it's love that gives you confidence, right? That gives you belief.
I was going to add here, Don, that I've got to go back to Leslie's before I forget. CEOs in our country have gone through, I think, an identity crisis of some sort. During COVID, as we know, and people were doing remote work, well, all of a sudden CEOs are like, oh, well, we need to go back to the office now. We got to, And so I think that we're at a point where we need to see our C-suite, the CEOs, entrepreneurs, take another look and bring back compassion and empathy and those soft skills that are so needed. Women automatically have them. We've been the nurturers in most cases, not all. We've been the one carrying the baby around, so to speak. And we bring that into our work life as women. It's just a natural, a kind of a mothering, whether it's your own birth children or not. We seem to mother everybody. At least I find myself.
Well, that's the nature. And actually that, going back to multitasking, do not multitask.
That's right.
I was the queen of multitasking when I was an executive assistant to startup companies. I had the files and I'd work on this one and take it out and on the next one. And I go back to this one. And I was just so confident in my multitasking. But here's the opposite of it is you lose all your focus.
Research has said now that you should not multitask.
That's right. One goal at a time.
One thing, really.
Right. And complete it.
Yes.
And if anybody has trouble with focus, right, there are ways to rebuild your focus. But multitasking, you're still only doing one thing at a time. And you're losing time between tasks. And time is consumable. Life, we play the game against time. Yes. And so over the years, I've discovered that it's much more beneficial for me, results-wise and happiness, is not to multitask, to stay focused, because that's the biggest complaint my clients have is I can't focus. That's what I hear. I can't focus. There's too much going on.
Well, it is a distraction in the den. You really do need to, whatever.
Well, and there's a lot of good things. I mean, listen, we're bombarded with a sensory overload of opportunities. It's so easy to be distracted.
Yes.
But focus is an intellectual faculty, and to lose it is not a good thing.
No, but I think everything is balance. Everything is application.
Yes.
When I look, I only had one job. I worked in a grocery store for 2.5 years when I was 15. Never worked for somebody again. And I never got fired. Never had an interview. I never had I had job security as long as the company had security, right? I wasn't going to fire myself. And based on that, I didn't have to deal.
You could pardon yourself.
And I did very quickly. And I enjoyed it because when it's yours to do good with or do bad with it. It's yours, right? When it's somebody else's, you've got a double sword.
Where did you learn then? If you only worked, so this is curious to me. So if you only worked a couple of years for someone else bagging groceries, how is it that you were able to begin to build companies without knowing how? Because you didn't have any experience.
That's a good question, but from the time I was 8, I was always doing stuff, raking leaves, painting houses, bowling, playing cards. So I was always my own person. And you grow up in your own little world, and you find out you don't need anybody else if you can do it yourself. I told my kids there's 2 doors. One door is employees, and one is employers. One is owners, one is not. Every day, people choose which door they go through. And you know what I made my kids do? When they were 16, they had to drive, and I made them pay $125 a month. And they had to get a job. Yeah, they paid.
For what? Insurance and stuff? Or?
Well, yeah, just for the right. I had that was what the car was worth, I thought. So I said, you got to work the first year for someone because you'll learn what it is to work for someone. And you'll never want to work for someone again. She went to Sears when Sears was still Sears and loved it. Went from cashier to hub manager or something. She worked there a couple of years. My son quit 1 year from the day he started and said, I did exactly what you asked me to do. And I said, fine. And they never worked for people again in the same way. And the point was, I told them, if you're not good for anybody else, why would I want you with me? And ultimately, they both ended up in the business for 8 years each. And my daughter was my right-hand person. And I'll tell you one thing about women and men. There was nobody that anybody feared more than her when she walked through the hall, because she was in HR. And when she would come in the room and close the door, I was looking, where's the window here? But you know what? It was because people trusted them and gave them responsibility and allowed them to fail. And I think to Leslie's point, when you come up with, if it's going to be, it's up to me attitude, the cavalry isn't going to show up.
Yeah.
You start being resourceful. You start digging deeper. Not to get, we're at the end of the show almost, but when I started my business in Detroit, my first business, I didn't have any money. And when somebody would buy something, I'd always ask for the empty box. I said, I'll throw it away if you're not going to use it. And I would put that empty box in back of a full box because it looked like I got 2 now. It's no different at a grocery store. If you got 1 onion sitting there by yourself, you're suspect to it, right? and so you make things happen. That's where innovation comes in.
Thinking differently.
Because when it's yours, there's nowhere to go, right? That's all there is, and whatever you got to do. And, the first year I made $50 a week. That was my take-home pay. It was enough to get me to work. Okay, give me a little spending money. The second year, I owned a building, the restaurant next door. I had an international mail order business, right? And that's how it happened. And so everybody out here, and I started with nothing. I was a jobber. They don't even have a name for jobbers.
Your father had a whole lot of influence on you, and that you emulated him. Am I correct?
No, because actually my father died when I was 8. And that put me on the road to self-sufficiency. You know, is everything changes. You know, there's a saying that says, it's easier to be in the dark than be in the dark, go to the light, and then go back to the dark. Right? So when everything is wonderful and then everything isn't there, everybody's like in it for themselves. You know, everybody's got it tough. You got to take care of yourself. And I think that's where self-sufficiency and dealing with situations that you have no idea what you're even dealing with, but life goes on. And you learn you have to go on too, but it also catapults you. Because one thing about adversity, it either overcomes you or you overcome it.
That's right.
Right? There's no middle ground. When the dam breaks, everything changes. So, you know, I think to your point, Leslie, you know, there was somebody in a book that said there was this guy who was a drunk, terrible person in prison. He had 2 sons. And one son turned out to be a drunk and in prison. And they asked him, well, how did you become who you were? He said, well, with a dad like that, what would you expect? Then his brother became a big attorney and was very famous. And they said, how did you become this? He said, well, with a dad like that.
Yeah.
Right? You would want to be like this. So depending on the conditions and the situations, and ultimately is a good news thing, the best thing that happened was my grandparents came to live with us. And that was a blessing, you know, to be with your grandmother and your grandfather, and they were great people, very respectable. You know, you know what they say, every ending is a new beginning.
That's right.
Right? And you got to look at now your new day. What happened yesterday is over. It's in the book. Right? What you do with now who you are. And that's where I think reinvention ties in with confidence. So anyways, went a little bit over, was a great show.
I'm just shocked. It just flew.
Yeah, honestly, this is the fastest hour on LinkedIn.
It's
And this could go all day. And maybe that's why we do it every day, is we couldn't do it all day. And I kind of look at this as working 1 hour a day, 7 days a week, instead of 8 hours in one day, like most people. So with that, Leslie, final words.
Just great to be here, Don. It's okay to feel up and feel down. Confidence is not an overnight thing. It takes a little work, but you ought to be able to have a good time while you're doing it.
Well, that's well said and very positive. Rita?
I think it's imperative that we all keep our confidence in trying times, challenging times. I always say challenging times, extraordinary opportunities, but we do have to feel confident that we shall get through whatever we have to face. We're going to do those Indiana Jones leaps of faith as needed, because we cannot allow our confidence to flag. It's imperative, in order to continue being servant leaders, that we keep ourselves boosted up. And sometimes just having a friend just listen will do it. But I believe everybody needs a mentor or a friend or somebody who will not lie to them saying, oh, you're so great, but recognize the gifts. And when we recognize the gifts, it will help all of us to either build or maintain our level of confidence to do what we need to do.
Well, that's so well put. And I think in closing, I think if everybody does the best they can with the best intentions they have, then they've done the best they can. And that's all you can expect from yourself. And you can come back tomorrow and add a little to it and add a little to it and enjoy, like Leslie says, the ride, the journey. You know, when you get to the destination, it's kind of bittersweet. If you know, it's like reading a book that you don't want to end. you know, that you love the characters and you love everything and you know it's going to end. And maybe that's when you start savoring, become aware, and understand that there's going to be more of whatever there is. And one thing I do know is I can look at things and say, well, if I got through that, I'll get through this no problem. You know, or I don't know what the answer is, but I know I'm going to get there eventually. And, you know, people, they want instant potatoes with everything they do. You know, they want to add water and just see it happen. You got to be up to it. You got to learn it. You got to practice it. You got to apply it. And you got to give yourself the patience and the forgiveness it takes to be your own best friends. Because at the end of the day, this game is truly about you and yourself. You know, and that's where confidence comes from, is like, you know, you got people who you look at them and they just got a bravado about them that's unmistakable, but it's also an appealing, attractive one versus someone who's just stepping on things and being horrible. And I think that's the person you want to be. Is we always talk about how a smile is thank you and so many unspoken words. A welcoming gesture could make somebody feel a little more confident. I mean, how many people compliment you every day? I mean, not that many. A lot of people may talk to you, they may bring something up, but how many people say, "Boy, it's a pretty dress you have on," or "I love your eyeglasses," or I mean, and you know what? You start loving them more now. At least you think of it. If someone says, "What was it you just said?" My glasses, and you take them off, maybe look at them to see what you're even wearing.
I have to say that Paul
Okay.
compliments me every day.
Why is that?
I don't know, but he always finds a way to compliment something I've said. Whenever I'm on live or audio rooms, he'll find something. That's
okay. So what are you saying?
I like that about him.
Well, and Raquel's here. She's a superstar. Dennis says grandparents are often grand. Sure made me a better grandparent by having great grandparents. Awesome show. You know, the good thing about the show is it is sincere, it is heartfelt, it is given in the best way possible. And that's what builds confidence, is little by little every day, being around a crowd that loves you just for who you are and what you're trying to be, not so much who you've been and what you aren't. You know, so if everybody believes in a better future, a brighter future for everybody around them, it will be. We create the future we desire, you know, and I think desire is so important to confidence. So again, I got another show, got to get freshened up. And then I got four long calls after it, but it's so great because things are accelerating at such a high pace because there's so many people throwing something into the blend, you know, and that's confident knowing you're one of many together.
One last tiny piece for you, Donald, as you go into your double feature. And Leslie.
Yeah, pretty soon it'll be a drive-in work we'll be having here.
Donald, one last thing.
Sure.
Leslie, catch me with this. Donald, when you first started doing this, you never could, I mean, you were future pacing, obviously, and seeing down the end of the line what you thought could happen. But I don't think you ever believed when you started that you would have taken this to such an extent that you're affecting thousands of people, truly, because that is rippling out. So when we talk about confidence, I'm looking at the guy in the middle here because you build everybody's confidence every single
Well, thank
day.
you so much, Rita. But here's the thing. If an opportunity like this can be stumbled into like I have, right, and built. No, really.
It's the 8-year-old little boy, you know.
I was looking at a YouTube video, and, you know, I've got hundreds of them, and you can look back at your first video, and you know it's like pictures of you as a baby, you know, and then you could look 3 months later and 3 months later, and you know what I realized even this week, because I'm constantly getting these revelations that makes me want to turn the next page, which is the next day. And one thing about when I work for myself in a way, I couldn't wait for Mondays. I'd be biting at the bit on Saturday or Sunday to get back into action. And you know what? in 37 years, I missed 1 day of work. Right? And it really wasn't even a health reason. So I loved going to work. I love my people. I love making things happen, destroying things, rebuilding things. And this is so easy. You don't got to go into an office. You don't got to get dressed up. You don't got to drive. When it's over, you're back where you started from. And, I always say, if I wasn't doing this, what would I be doing this hour? I'd still be where I am, looking for something to do. Or, you know what is a big tip is build your own dream, not somebody else's. Right? And that's key, patronize yourself first, get yourself well. So with that, we could talk forever. If you want to see us more of me today, plug into the awesome journey with Kelly. I'm gonna get there. You don't know how many names. It's like having 62 kids for breakfast, and you wonder Mo or John over there. But anyways,
which one are you?
Well, you guys and gals, thank you all for coming today. Thank you, Leslie and Rita, for being such a charming host. Oh, and the thing I thought about the revelation is we are getting and we'll get into more important discussions, and that's important because I visit so many shows and I tip my hat to anybody who does these. I know how much work it is and how much effort before and after the show. But I have so much respect and appreciation for people's time and thought that I just don't want to have a frivolous show, just a fun only show. It's like, hey, let's challenge ourselves to be as good as we can in the moment, spontaneously, responsively, because that's the test, right? Okay, here's the question, what's your answer? Versus here's a question in a week, you got a week to figure it out and deliver it, because it will never be as fresh, it will never be as aligned, and it'll be presumptuous, And plus, if I don't have to worry about what I'm going to say, then it makes it easier to say the right thing. So anyway, I love you.
Well, if the show was scripted, it would not be nearly.
No, we want to challenge everybody. This is not a comfortable thing from not doing. It should be a comfortable thing from the feeling and energy people get.
Yes.
But why not be the best you can be? Why not show up? And the other thing that I love about this, and when I started the show, it was just really to stay relevant. It was, and I knew confidence. I knew I was at the top of my game because I had everything I had done in business that made me successful, and 3-4 years of just enjoying everything around me. So when I got back, I was pretty seasoned. And when you don't need something as much as you used to, you do better at it, right? When you don't worry about breaking something, you lean into it a little bit more, right? You don't worry about it. And I think worry takes away from confidence. So anyway, we can get going, but we won't. Thank you, everyone. Come back at 1:11 p.m. And I'll be with Kelly and Awesome Journey. And tomorrow, tomorrow is Wednesday. So tomorrow we have Rita back with a new lady, Deb Curtis, who you got to meet. Wonderful lady. Thursday is Kelly. And we've got Brett coming back on Thursday with her. Friday is Christy. Harvey is going to be moving to Sundays, every other Sunday, and rotating with Sarah. So a lot of changes are taking place. A lot of new things are opening up. Be here. Don't be square. So anyways, talk to you later. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody.